Good evening, and welcome to the Waterloo Community School District Board of Education meeting on April 11th of 2016. I'd like to ask all of you to join me this evening in a moment of silence. Thank you, and will you now please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And tonight I'm actually going to read our mission statement because it's been a while since I have. So, the Waterloo Schools community commits to a comprehensive system of education and support to assure that each and every student will graduate prepared for college, career, and citizenship, as evidenced by continuing education, pursuing a career path, and contributing to a community. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing for the 2016-17 budget certification. So I now declare that that hearing is open. And if there's anyone here that wishes to speak on that or have a question, I welcome you to come forward at this time. You can come up to the mic and there's a small little button that says push. And a green light should come on.
Okay.
Great.
First of all, I guess I'm a concerned citizen. Been here, lived here 38 years.
I need a name.
I've a lot of fellow teachers, paraeducators, what have you. Through that career, I've worked in a factory here for 32 years, Viking Pump, and now I work for the Machinists Union. So I take things seriously when it comes to boards and wages, and I hear what you're saying about our children. I think it's very important that everybody gets a good education to better their lives and their families going forward. I think it's very important that everybody has a living wage. Some jobs pay more than others. Depends on your degree, what you have here and there. So I'm here in support for the paraeducators. I read an article, it was funny, in the paper, I think it was Friday. They talked about how just a livable wage was like $18 an hour.
Can I interrupt you just a moment?
Sure.
I'm really not trying to be disrespectful. I want to hear what you have to say. We are actually, this is the part of our meeting where we're just opening to talk about the budget, the 2016 budget. And I do have a spot in the agenda for information from people because I want to get your name and I want to give you the time. So just, if you put a comma in that, or if you just want to go ahead and finish what you had to say, my only thing is I do need to ask that we do limit our comments to 3 minutes. So I'll just start right now. But go ahead and finish what you had to say and give us your name and address.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. And I probably didn't explain that.
My name is
Gary. I just
Gary.
didn't want you to keep going.
Gary Pappenheim.
Great. Thanks, Gary.
And I'm from Waterloo. Like I said, I've been here 38 years.
Perfect.
Livable here. I live on 421 Cortlandt Street. And I went to East High School, graduated there, and went on to the military and going forward. Again, like I said, everybody's talking about this $15 an hour minimum wage, and you hear it all the time, politicians going on and so forth. I think it's very important that we move in the direction it is to make everybody have a livable wage. I know for myself that I represent Operation New View Head Start program in Dubuque, Iowa. So I know what the wages are, and I know what happens there for teachers like the paraeducators. It's a thankless job. They deal with handicapped kids or regular kids, whatever you want to call them. I'm sure there's different names. I might mess that up. But they take their job seriously. They're there to work. They're there to help the kids out. They're there to get them through education. They're there to do whatever they got to do to make things right. And I've heard stories, I guess, and I've been in some meetings and some dinners with some friends of mine and stuff, and I've ran into some folks that do stuff like they're doing here. It's sad to hear that I'm hearing they're making like $11-something an hour. I don't know the exact number. But to me, that is really a sad wage for the hard work they do. I know it's a negotiable thing. I know with your help you work together with that with a budget and get the best thing that you can for both parties. I think that's very important. I've heard that food service workers make more than they do, and that's sad. Not saying that food service workers aren't important. Everybody has a job to do, and I believe that's important. But I know some of the ladies here and the ladies that I've dealt with have degrees, whether it be a bachelor's, a master's, whatever. And that should be taken into consideration because they did continue their education, as you spoke earlier. I think all they're asking for is a decent wage raise to get them to be a livable wage so they can raise their children or their families, whatever have you. I've heard horror stories that some of them can't afford a car. They carpool, different things. They're getting different benefits through the government because of that. I think that's sad. I know, for instance, I believe, and you could probably check it, I'm sure, I think it's Des Moines, and I think Cedar Rapids is the other one. I've done some little bit of investigation. They make $2 an hour more than they do here. I realize the location means everything, and that's how things work.
Gary, I hate to interrupt you, but your 3 minutes are
Okay,
now
that's fine.
are now up.
Just wanna give my
So
support.
I appreciate
I
what
thank
you
the
had
board
to say.
for hearing me and listening to what I had to say. I appreciate it, and
And-
hope you will take that into consideration.
Thank you, and pardon me for interrupting you twice.
Thank you.
So with that, I'm going to go back to the public hearing portion on our 16-17 budget certification and just check to see if there's anything further on that. And seeing none, then I need to ask the board for a motion to close the hearing, please.
So move.
And a second? All those in favor then of closing the public hearing on the 2016-17 budget certification, please certify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried and the hearing is now closed. That takes us then on to our second public hearing this evening, which is the scoreboard project at Memorial Stadium. It's on page 3, it's item B. And I would like to declare that hearing open. And I would like to turn it over to Dr. Lindeman just for a few comments at this time.
Sure. Just to clarify on this one, this is actually just a public hearing to hear what people might have to say about going out for bids on a scoreboard at Memorial Stadium. So that's just what that is right now. So I just want to make sure that this isn't taking action, this isn't receiving bids, this isn't anything like that. It's just we have to actually have a hearing before we can even take it or send it out for bids. So that's what this is right now.
And those of you who are watching or know, 2 weeks ago, this was on our agenda just as an FYI. We talked about it, and Dr. Willie Barney was here to answer a few questions about it. Our scoreboard is ailing, and we're not able to find replacement parts and such, so we are moving forward to accept bids at some point here. So, is there anything further then?
Shanley, I just had a couple calls on that by the neighbors in that area.
Okay.
And just wanted to make sure that in the bidding and in the lighting that they're respectful of the
Absolutely.
lights shining on their homes and that type of thing.
I'll make sure I'm on the facilities committee, and Lyle and Mike hold me to that. Make sure that I remember to tell when those bids come in. We'll make sure that's in there. Thanks, Sue. Anything further then? Then seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the scoreboard project. Mike, and a second? All those in favor of closing the public hearing, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carries. The next item on our agenda is an exciting thing. It's really nice when we get to do celebrations. We have a board celebration for an employee recognition, and at this time I would like to ask Nancy Newhoff to come forward. And again, Nancy, there's a little button there and a green light should come on. Great.
Okay, well, I'm Nancy Newhoff, editor of the Courier, and I want to thank the Waterloo Board of Education for putting me on your agenda this evening. I'm here tonight to present a very special award to a Waterloo Schools employee. We are here today to honor one of only 2 people who won the honor of being a Cedar Valley Business Monthly Financial Leader for 2016. Financial leaders are those behind-the-scenes key people in the success of a company. They are rarely identified as leaders, and many want to keep it that way. But they are keys to the success of every organization. Michael Coughlin is CFO of Waterloo Community Schools and is a winner this year of this prestigious award. He was chosen by an independent panel of his peers who looked through a wide range of nominations and decided that only 2 were worthy of winning the honor this year. To win this award, the nominee must demonstrate leadership in the company's financial success, demonstrate skills in employee retention, and implement innovative methods to maintain the overall health of the organization. The committee felt he was a unanimous selection for the honor based on the nominations sent in on him. Michael joined the Waterloo School District in 2007. He's a native of Kenmar, North Dakota, who earned a bachelor's degree from Upper Iowa and a master's from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. His nominator said for the past 8 years, he has focused on building a budget to support the needs of children and utilized existing funds to best serve their needs. He's a key player in the negotiations team, and he shows an innovative approach to his job. He said his personal philosophy is based on strong integrity, following regulations and policies, recognizing and developing the skills of the staff, and communicating effectively, all starting with listening skills. He believes financial success only comes with organizational success. He said his core fiscal philosophy is based on understanding that there is always more to learn. He said, solid leadership is the key, demonstrated by the willingness of the Board of Education, administration, teachers, and staff to honestly evaluate achievement and work together to address the needs of all students. Please join me in congratulating Michael Coughlin as a Cedar Valley Financial Leader for 2016.
Stand it up.
I'd like to present you, Michael, with a special gift.
You have to stand up. Nancy, should we make him speak? Yeah.
I wanted to show one of the 2 gifts he's going to get is that we put his picture on the cover of the Cedar Valley Business Monthly. Come to your office.
Awesome. That's great. That's funny. Nancy, on behalf of the board, thank you very much. Thank you to you and the Courier for this wonderful honor for Michael. And Michael, I know you don't want to speak, but you may if you wish. But let me start by saying I can't tell you how much I appreciate your wisdom and guidance, and I think this is a very deserved honor. School finance is one of the most complicated things I've ever had to get my head around. And you have always been so patient with me, and I kind of call you the velvet crowbar because you're able to kind of work it all in there and make me understand, and I really, really appreciate that. And the fiscal responsibility that you show and keeping our district where it is, I am always impressed. So well-deserved congratulations. And I'm sure the rest of us would like to add anything that... So, you can say ditto. Thank you. Double ditto. Great. Well, it's such a great honor, and we'll come by your office and shine your plaque every now and again.
And thank you to the Courier.
Yeah.
Yep.
An opportunity to speak, and it really is that we've heard me say many times in the past, it's not one person. It's everybody working together and understanding and trying to figure out the new things that come along and get to the bottom of them and understand and everybody working together to do that. in this kind of a setting that have lots of different opportunities, but I've always come to some resolution and everybody goes forward together. So, not big on honors and all of that, but I really appreciate the people that I work with, and I need to mention my staff.
Yeah.
I've got people that work very hard to get things right. And there's times that we have to do it over because we find out there's adjustments to make. But that's always been the attitude of saying, let's just go forward and figure out how to do it the right way and serve the organization as well as possible. And one of the things that I think is important in all jobs, and especially a job that you work with money, and handle that, have that responsibility. I just wanted to share a verse with you that has been very important to me. It comes out of the book of Jeremiah, and it says, "Let not the wise man glory in his wisdom. Let not the mighty man glory in his might. Nor let the rich man glory in his riches. But he that glories, let him glory in this, that he understands and knows God. His truth, his righteousness, and his grace." And I think when you put that priority in your life, you can get through everything that comes along. So I really appreciate being recognized and knowing after all these years that somebody notices, and that's that's good. But we all work at this together, and I really appreciate the honor. Thank you very much.
It is well deserved. So the next item on our agenda is information from individuals and delegations. Gary, this is where I started earlier, but so at this point, if anyone wishes to address the board, they may come forward and do so. I ask that you state your name and your address. I ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Mrs. Arndorfer will hold up a yellow card when you have 30 seconds remaining and a red card when your time has expired, and I will ask you to conclude your public comments at that time. Please also keep in mind and keep your comments respectful and constructive. We are all here with the goal of helping our students, and avoid criticizing the job performance of specific employees of the school district. Personnel matters are confidential and must be handled through proper channels, not in this public forum. And finally, we provide this as an opportunity for public comment, but is generally not a back and forth discussion, especially for items that are not on our agenda. But we will certainly help with providing information or even speaking to you after the board meeting. We do need to go ahead and proceed with our agenda items this evening. So with that, I invite anyone who wishes to address the board to come forward and start with your name and address. And I probably just did that, and Gary's like, I already was up here. You're totally
No,
fine. I probably didn't explain it well. So is there anyone that wishes to address the board? All right, then seeing none, we will move on to our consent agenda this evening. That begins on page 6. It's item D. There are 5 items on our consent agenda this evening, and they are as follows. The minutes of the March 28th, 2016 regular board meeting, personnel appointments and adjustments, bills due and payable and bills paid between board meetings, the scoreboard project at Memorial Stadium, and the selection of financial institution for deposit of funds. Are there any items that board members wish to have removed? All right. Then seeing none, I would ask that you then approve the consent agenda. I need someone to move to approve the consent agenda. Items D, E, F, G, and H.
So moved.
And a second? Thanks, Mike. All those in favor then of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye, motion carried. We so seldom don't pull something off the consent agenda that I got myself out of order there. So the next item on our agenda is item I. It is on page 22. It's the Expo trip to Boston, Massachusetts. And I believe that Cindy is here this evening. But the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve travel for Expo students to Boston, Massachusetts for the Business Professionals of America National Leadership Conference, May 3rd through the 9th, 2016. And with that, I'll turn it over. Get in a second. Now that's on the table. So go ahead, Cindy. Welcome.
I'm Cindy Zook from Expo. I'm a business teacher there, and I'm the advisor for Business Professionals of America. This is our first year for having a chapter, so we were really excited to get it going there since it's been at other schools in the district. And I have 2 students that are able to go to nationals and are still there. One of my students already graduated, so they're gone for the year. So, but there's 2 that can go to competing competitions and then also participate in internships.
Cindy, I know we're also sending a group from West High. Will you all be kind of coordinating your travel and
Yes,
going
we're
together?
actually rooming with Wes to
Great.
save on the hotel rooms.
I figured you might be, but just wanted
Yeah.
to clarify that. That's great. Anything else? Angie?
I just have a comment. It's not often that we get someone from Expo coming to take the kids to do something, so it's super exciting to hear a teacher and students who are passionate about furthering their education outside of the classroom. So
Yeah, they're
exciting.
really excited about it, and one of them I'll have next year still, so hopefully he can help to recruit some additional students next year.
And we can send you again. That'd be great. So, thank you. Anything further? Great, then all those in favor of approving the Expo trip to Boston, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. The next item on our agenda then is item J. It is on page 27. And the recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve travel to St. Louis, Missouri for the Waterloo Community School District FRC robotics team, April 27th through the 30th, 2016 for the World Championship. And a second? Awesome. So with that, I believe that Vaughn Gross is here this evening. Would you like to come forward and tell us a little bit about this? Yeah, bring him up too. Bring whoever else.
So this is our rookie year. This is the very first year we've done this. Pretty excited and pretty stoked about being able to qualify for World Championships in the very first year. It's been quite the undertaking. We learned a lot, I think, through this whole process, and I think we got a lot of changes to make next year. But our success was in part by, it's phenomenal community support, especially like John Deere found the foundation. Very thankful for their support and continued support. But we, as you can see in our agenda, it's a very expensive project throughout the year, as well as going to the World Championship. We were kind of lucky that this was the first year of the Iowa Regional, which kept costs quite a bit lower for our qualifying for this event, because it was right there in Cedar Falls.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we'd probably have to have another similar request for other things. But if there's any other specific questions, I don't know, ask Nick here or myself.
Nick, would you just give us a little background for those of us who may or may not be familiar with robotics, or our audience? Can you tell us a little bit about what your rehearsals and your practices are like, and what the actual competition is, and what you guys do?
Okay. So basically our meetings are kind of like, we all have our separate tasks, and we at the beginning we say this is what needs to get done today and different stuff like that, and then we break off and do what we need to do. And as far as competitions, it's for the Worlds, it'll be a 4-day event where you'll have qualification rounds and different stuff like that, and finals. And each year we compete in a game, and we build a robot in 6 weeks to do that game.
Okay.
And anything else?
Yeah.
Do you know what you will be doing for the Worlds then, or was that something that comes up just 6 weeks before the competition?
So we actually have a build season that was January 9th, and then 6 weeks from there. Then after that, we have to put a robot inside of a bag. We're not allowed to take it out until a competition.
Oh.
So then after our regional, we put it back in a bag, and then we're going to ship it to St. Louis, coming up this week.
So it's the same robot
Mhm.
that you used in Cedar Falls?
Correct.
Okay.
So what's the robot need to, what are the capabilities you build into it?
So this year, there was different obstacles we had to drive over, so we opted for high ground clearance of our wheels, and we actually used lawnmower tires, which is a little bit fun. And then we have, and then we have these boulders that we can pick up and score into a high goal and a low goal. And we decided it wasn't worth going for the high goal just for point differences and times. So then we built something to pick up balls and then transport them into a goal.
And this is timed.
Yes, we have 30 seconds for autonomous mode, which is like pre-programmed. It's like only the robot, no input from us. And then there's a 2-minute, I believe, teleop period where there's 2 people driving the robot.
And like you said, everybody has a different task. Like, what are some of the different tasks or jobs, responsibilities you have?
So we have, I guess there's a lot. There's stuff like the media team. They design all of our shirts, plan events like Culture Fest and a few other ones we have coming up. We have the programming team, which I'm a part of. We have the build team. There's outreach. And then just starting now, we're going to have a concessions team for raising money and working the concessions and different stuff like that.
Are there seminars? The registration cost seems pretty high. What all is there just the competition, or are there seminars and so forth and learning opportunities involved?
I don't think so.
The registrations are quite steep, and it's the same for any regional or like world championship. There's a lot of other things that go on at the arenas. The regional, not quite as much, but there's usually quite a bit of vendors. There will be very good presence of Fortune 500 companies. We're really looking for their next employees. So there's a lot of opportunity to qualify for scholarship through those means. Also internships, and then just seeing what some of these other companies have as far as in the line in the field of robotics and technology. As far as like individual sessions, not so much, but they do provide opportunity for teams to collaborate, and these would be teams from around the world. So learning from these other teams, some social events to really kind of set up and promote that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So this championship is in St. Louis. Do they expect teams from all over the world? How many different countries do you think will be represented?
As far as the number of countries, I'm not sure. That kind of varies from year to year, depending on how well they do in their own regions.
Okay.
There'll be 600 FRC teams there, so 600 teams like us. There were three from our region, and that's pretty typical from a region, about 3.
How many competed in Cedar Falls?
It was a smaller one. I think there was 53.
So you finished in the top 4 out of 53 then?
Well, there's some. We were a rookie team,
Okay.
so there's also a what we call Rookie All-Star.
Okay.
And so we got that award. That was
I
one of the World Championship qualifiers. And a lot of that has to do with, there's a lot more that goes into just the robot. They really want you to get out there in your community, promote STEM, show kind of what they call gracious professionalism, really show good character. And we did very well this year for that.
So you will be
person.
competing in the rookie division then?
Well, we are in the regular
No,
divisions.
Okay.
We still compete against everybody.
Okay.
There are 18 of you going, Michael, is that right? Or that are on the team? Is that right?
Yeah, around that.
Around that, that's, oh, Nick, I'm sorry that I said Michael. I have Michael Coughlin over here, I just can't, I'm still excited about that. Nick, do you guys, Have you been at 18 all the time? Do you have alternates that go? Like, tell me a little bit more about your team dynamic.
So we don't expect people to show up every day, because we do meet every single day until around 8 o'clock, and sometimes even on weekends. So it's kind of like we have a big team, but we don't expect people to show up every single day.
Okay.
It's just kind of come once or twice a week, or probably more than once or twice a week, and just so you get what you're responsible for done in that week.
Sort of, you work to refine what you need before do you guys have any sense of what your, I know you're timed, but what can you practice is what I guess I'm trying to ask you. What can you work on those nights?
So mainly it's like just building and different stuff like that.
Okay.
Now, after the 6 weeks, we're allowed a 30-pound allowance. So that's what we worked on after the 6 weeks. And other than that, it's just kind of refining stuff and planning events and different stuff like that.
Excellent.
It's probably worth mentioning the registration fee was paid by John Deere, and that would be something to
Yes.
definitely be.
Yeah, we were
Thank
just
them.
talking about it, recognition, because that's huge. And then I also noticed some of the chaperones are Deere employees. I know a couple of them. So
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome, too, that they're taking their time to come and chaperone. Very nice. They think you guys are well worth it, so.
Yes.
What, do you have a name for your team, like the Robotic Maniacs or something?
So we're actually named Unity for Tech, as on the shirt. And then for our robot name this year, we were actually visiting Home Depot looking for some wire. And the guy said, "What is your robot name?" Something like Brutus. And then we decided to name it Brutus, just because we had no other idea.
Brutus, awesome.
Brutus, I like it.
Very nice. I had a dog named that once.
So how many are involved in the program? Is it the 18, or are there more students that are involved at a lesser level?
Yeah, there's actually 23 off and on. Some of them we haven't seen a little bit. Others, it just kind of depends on the student. Others, might be more involved with other activities. Some sports like track started, so we lost a few of that. So it kind of depends on other involvements as well. But right around 23 individuals students have been involved throughout the season.
So what's it going to take for resources for next year to step up a level?
We've been trying to gauge how much this is going to cost yearly. This year we had some additional startup costs because we had no parts. So we have the robot can only cost $4,000. That's by regulation. Now that's kind of, I don't know, maybe misleading a little bit, because some things like we got Waterloo Metal. What's their name? Waterloo Metal Works. Over on the east side, they donated scrap metal, so we could cut and form that steel at scrap price. So even though it may be more than that if we bought it at regular retail, we can use a scrap price and document that price and based on the poundage, the number of pounds we use. So it's kind of somewhat misleading. And then some of those other parts are a little more spendy. Motors can be quite expensive. Control systems very spendy. But the robot itself is about $4,000. And then there's all these extra pieces you need to have on hand for motors burning out and controllers malfunctioning. But we spent a total of about $14,000, I believe, this year. But that includes a lot of tools and other hardware to kind of get started. We were fortunate to have actually kind of a shuffle of some of the equipment like saws and that, so we were able to go over to Central where it was just being stored and utilize some of that material. So we tried to be a little more frugal with it, but it was still about $14,000 this first year. Hopefully in the future we can get that down a little bit. I'm hoping under 10 for sure next year. Just kind of depends on what we need to set up. Oftentimes you build field components, so when you talk about what we do for practice, we know what the game is, and we can use like lumber and make mock field components, so we can practice going through those elements. We didn't get, since it's our first year, we didn't quite plan our time very well, so we didn't get a lot of those made this year. So we got, nice thing is a lot of that can be used next year, so we have a lot of wood already as on hand. So as soon as we figure out what our next year's competition is, we'll have that. So that'll be less cost next year, and it just kind of got added to this year instead.
Are you, are you allowed to put logos on to recognize your sponsors?
We do have our sponsors.
Okay.
On our T-shirts, and then on the robot as well.
Okay.
And then we'll go around for sure to each individual one and have a presence and thank them personally.
I just wanted to add that I remember when Rach came and talked, she talked about the sponsors and the people that are there that put money out of their own pocket. So thank you to all of you for investing in our kids, for doing this. I mean, every night, it's not just them every night. It's you volunteering your time every night and your weekends. And then from what I understand, you eat a lot of pizza. So thank you for investing in our kids.
And Nick, if I call you the right name, do you promise that you'll maybe come back and tell us how you did? Or you can just shoot me a memo, either way, whatever you want. So.
And I just want to say one more thing about this too. A few weeks ago, before the competition at UNI, there was the Cedar Valley Robotics Week kickoff, and it was held at John Deere Museum, the New Tractor Museum. And I went and took my family and took my kids, and I could barely pry my children out of there because it was pretty amazing. But at that meeting, there were so many volunteers who really, and John Deere had a clear presence. There was no doubt that had a clear presence. But I couldn't help but think how many people were behind you, even from the meeting this fall when you did your very first formal inaugural kickoff of as far as becoming a team. And the other thing too, I heard that at the Unidome when you guys were doing your presentation, one thing that I heard was just how well our Waterloo kids connected with everybody from outside of Waterloo. And at one point in time, there's evidently a video floating around of the kids, Waterloo kids and Cedar Falls kids doing a dance somewhere, and they evidently call themselves Cedar Falls or Water Falls, right? Water Falls, the Water Falls group, Waterloo, Cedar Falls, and they were dancing. And I think, can you tell some of the other districts that you connected with? Dyke, New Hartford, were they there? And who else was there? Because I know that you guys just made kind of a nice connection with community outside of Waterloo, and I think that's just an added bonus.
As far as like teams you communicate with and met with there, it was pretty much, we had teams like from all over the U.S. and even two teams from China and a team from Brazil that we even talked with and helped them and different stuff like that.
So talk about it, when we talk about a global, global thinking, I just think this is a great way that it connects not only just the content that you're learning, but it really does connect you outside of Waterloo, and I think that's just an added bonus. So best wishes, and I'm with Shanley. We can't wait to hear all of your success when you get back.
And I just wondered, do you ever do anything for like the middle school kids to come and visit to get them? I mean, I just know of a middle 8th grader that I know would just love this, but just how do you get your word out what you do for the feeder schools?
So this kind of goes with our media group. We're on the 19th, 17th, around there. We're going to Central Celebrates, and we'll have our robot demonstration, different stuff like that. And then the day before we leave for Worlds, we'll go to Becker Bash and demonstrate there as well.
Awesome. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Good
and then
job,
along
media.
with that, we're going to have a summer camp actually this year that we can have students sign up for, and we'll kind of teach them different things like that.
Would you give us the information on your summer camp?
Yeah.
Thank you.
He didn't know he was going to walk away with assignments.
I know. He's thinking, I'm so sorry I came tonight.
Or that you were going to have to do
We
such
put
a
you on the
presentation.
spot.
Right? That's right.
Thank you both. You can tell we're obviously pretty excited about it, so do us proud down there. All right. Anything further? Great. Then all those in favor of approving the FRC Robotics team travel to the World Championships in St. Louis, Missouri, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. That takes us then to item K on page 35, which is our 2016-17 budget certification and adoption. And the recommended motion is that the Board of Education certify and adopt the 2016-17 budget with maximum expenditures of $158,138,556 and a property tax levy rate of $15.40 as presented. And a second?
Second.
Thanks, Lyle. And I'll start the discussion by turning it over to Dr. Lindeman this evening.
Okay. Do you want to make any comments before we start, or do you want me to?
We'll see. No, go
I
ahead.
said that.
Okay. Oh, no, that's totally okay.
Okay.
I didn't know if he wanted to start a little bit. So just for the audience of whether you're present here or watching this live on TV, but this is just the time when we actually certify our estimate, our budget estimate. And so in the exhibit, it kind of details some of the information, but there's a timeline of when we have to certify our budget, and we can't, it has to be at least 10 days, but not more than 20 days before the time that is specified by law. So what we're doing is really just, we're certifying the maximum budget that we can spend and setting the maximum tax rate. And so that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing tonight. So this includes everything. And I would, I don't know if Mr. Coughlin's going to talk about the budget, but I do. It's just kind of a good time to talk about budget in Iowa in general. So just a couple comments about that. We are setting the maximum budget right now, but at the same time, one thing that we are doing is we are looking at the amount of new money we have, the way that school finance works in Iowa, that once the amount is really generated on the number of students that we have. It's really two things that matter: the enrollment, the number of students that we have, and then this per pupil allocation. And so you multiply those numbers together, and that tells you how much money you are getting. And so that's just how it works. And it actually is calculated a year behind. So we take the enrollment from this past fall on October 1st or 15th? 15th? First? In October. And so that enrollment, and for us, unfortunately, that was down this year. We did drop in enrollment a little bit after several years of growth. So that was, it's not good to go down in enrollment. So we are looking at the number that the per pupil student amount is generated by this a percentage multiplier, which for Iowa a percentage of growth, and they call it state supplemental aid. Actually, supplemental state aid, isn't it? So, and for Iowa right now, it's 2.25% growth. That's the max amount that you can. That's how much we went up in our per pupil amount. So when you multiply the enrollment times that number, which for Iowa, I believe it's $6,591 or something like that, right in there. When we look at that, that actually means that we are getting about $700,000 new money. And so that means, and we know that to maintain our district, we really needed about $3 million in new money. And so we are in the process of looking at where we can tighten our belt. This comes on the heels of cutting dollars last year. We cut about $3 million out of our budget last year, and that's about what we'll be doing this year. So this process tonight is really just kind of cursory or just introductory to the entire budgeting process. So what we're doing is just setting that max amount, but everything, I wouldn't want the public to think that this is kind of just you set the number and then we're good to go and we move on. We are working behind the scenes. Matter of fact, we're meeting 2 and sometimes 3 times a week to go through every single item to take a peek at what we can do, where we can cut. The good thing, I guess, is, well, good or bad, I guess, is that we are certainly not alone in this. We are working with other districts to see how they're doing. I was just talking with the superintendent in Davenport, and after cutting $4 or $5 million last year, they are cutting $5 million this year. So it's a tough time to look at that. And so I don't say that to be disparaging in any way, because we are always going to do what we can do for kids. Kids are they're our business. I mean, that is our first and foremost concern. So we are looking at that. But I just mentioned that because it really is quite a cumbersome process. I'm in my second year as a superintendent, and although I find the number piece of it, the numbers, really intriguing, I really do. It is quite a task to make the ends meet, and schools don't have the option to go over. That's just, it isn't an option for us. So anyway, Michael probably wants to tell a few more details about this, or maybe not, but
I think
ahead.
you summarized it very well. I think also just in the framework of seems to be the mode that the state is stuck in. That we are not just expecting this to be a one-year challenge. So that's why we are looking at a 2 or 3 year solution of saying how if things stay relatively the same trends, how are we going to deal with that over a 2 or 3 year period? So that also allows us not to have to identify everything in year one, but it also allows us the flexibility to look down the road a little bit and see how it's all going to fit together. And those things can change. Like Dr. Lindemann said, the enrollment, even though the percentage of increase is very important, the enrollment is actually more important because when we had 2.25% this year and enrollment went down, we got 700,000, but the formula only generated half of that. But by law, we can get the 1%. So if enrollment can stabilize and go up, that makes a big difference in the formula. But that's just one of those unknown factors that we will not know until next year when the kids are actually counted. So we have to follow the trend and be prepared. So again, the motion stated the total budget, and that's all funds, the general fund and activity fund and lunch fund and management and PEPL, the PEPL funds and food service, so it's $158,138,556, and the tax rate of $15.40 even is down 22 cents from last year. So that was a concerted effort in itself to continue that process, meeting the needs that we could through the formula. So we've all worked together on this to get the Finance Committee looked at all of it before it was ever presented to the board and came up with a good recommendation to bring to the public.
And if I could just one more thing on this. Sometimes I get asked, people will say, well, if your tax rate goes down, you must not need any more money. That's just a general, if you don't understand how school finance works, I actually get that comment sometimes. They say, oh, you must not need as much money. So the easiest answer for that is the enrollment really drives how much money a school can collect or how much money they can use. And so when your enrollment goes down, the amount of money that you can collect also goes down. And so that very often drives the tax rate down. So that's probably one of there's more to it certainly, but that's probably the easiest explanation. So not necessarily for the people in the room, but if people are listening to this, that might be something that is helpful to know.
Assessed value also contributes to that quite a bit.
Yep.
In the property values within our community go up, that drives that tax rate down as well.
Just one more comment. If this year is the same as in the past, the priorities will be to try to maintain the dollars in the classroom for any student adult contact in the classroom. That's the number one priority. And so the other four areas really that cost significant money are energy, custodial, busing, and maintenance. And we always want to do enough preventive maintenance at least to not cost us more later. Energy, due to the design and operation of the buildings, that's an area we have cut pretty dramatically over the last few years. And of course, energy prices are favorable right now as well, but that piece could reverse. And then custodial, again, the buildings have been designed and the equipment such. Right now we're in the process of working on the busing costs because we're negotiating that. So in any event, those I think will kind of remain the target areas, number one. but then ultimately you back up and say what's available for the classroom. So that's kind of what way it works.
My mic's off, sorry. Anything else? Thanks again, Michael, to you and your staff for putting the budget together, and for 2 weeks ago we had a really lengthy conversation about the budget and all the pieces, and again, that was a great learning opportunity for all of us, and appreciate your time on that. So seeing nothing further, then all those in favor of approving the 2016-17 budget certification and adoption, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Motion carried. That concludes the action items on our agenda this evening. So the next item is our superintendent's report. I'll turn it over to Dr. Lindman.
Thank you. A few comments. First of all, I want to welcome the people that are here tonight. We have administrators. We have the Waterloo Education Association has a couple reps here, and the people in orange. So we have representatives from the Waterloo Education Support personnel. What we call them WESP, and they have shirts that have WESP, and so I want to thank them for coming. I appreciated the comments up front, and while I can't comment about too much of that, I would say I hope that it is not a thankless job. I hope it's a thankful job, and I think that those of us who are in education do it because we absolutely love kids, and that I can't go too much more in that, but thank you for being here tonight, and welcome. So just a few other comments. Today was a professional development day, and if there are parents out there, they know that their kids were either at home or at an alternative placement to days sometimes. So, but I want to thank the parents and also the school board for approving a calendar that has those professional development days in there. It is so important that we have those days, that we can regroup and retool and relearn and explore and just kind of collaborate to make a better education environment for kids. So thank you for doing that. I think probably somebody's going to mention Dallas Brass, or no? Okay, I just want to remind everybody, I know that I was at Rotary today, and we had a couple people there sharing this event in the Cedar Valley. Tomorrow night we have the Dallas Brass. I think it's a quintet. I think there are 5 pieces that will be here in Waterloo, and they are a nationally recognized group. They've played in Carnegie Hall. They are here in Waterloo, and they will be here tomorrow night. They are playing at Hoover Middle School. That's the location, and it is at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. So if you are... Oh, is that at West? Oh, my goodness.
It's at West.
Okay, so sorry. They are at West tomorrow night. West, everyone, West. So if you have your ticket, it'll say that on there. So anyway, if you are available and interested in that, I hope you'll attend that. Just a comment to the board and beyond. We are still working very hard on our career and technical education plan. And in February, we know that we took a plan to the public, and that was not approved. But I do want to assure people that we are working very hard behind the scenes. At that time, we had looked at 30 career and technical education programs. Right now, we are looking at which ones we can launch in the fall. While it will be a very small number, and we know that, we'll continue with what we had, but we are looking at specifically 2 of those 30 programs and looking at that in a greater depth for students. So I want to make sure that people know that we are still committed to that, because we know it makes a difference for kids. We know it is highly engaging. We know that it keeps kids in schools. It drives graduation rate up, and it actually drives kids onto a post-secondary education at a greater rate. So we want kids to go to college, and we define college as anything after high school that is going to set them up for career success. And then 2 events that we had this week. On Thursday night, I just want to applaud everybody who had anything to do with Culture Fest. And it was so amazingly attended. Standing room only, really. You had to turn sideways sometimes to get through. But I took my own children, and I saw lots of people there with children, and it was just an amazing event for them. They got to try interesting food and see interesting dance. And I can't mention everybody who was there and everybody who played a role in that, but I would give a shout out to our art teachers. They put on an amazing art show that night, and if you were able to just go around and look at the artwork of our own children, it was just a sight to behold. Just really made us proud. And then finally, another event I had the opportunity to attend was Hawkeye Community College always sponsors something called a Turnaround Achievement Awards Night. And so we had multiple kids there. I'm not exactly sure. I think it was 18 from Waterloo, but just shy of 20 students who were recognized for truly turning their academic and their behavior lives around. And while I absolutely loved seeing the students getting the awards, and I took lots of pictures of the kids up at the podium, I actually took just as many pictures of the parents in the audience, because I think it might have been almost as exciting to see the parents and see them being so proud of their kids and hearing some such great comments about the kids. And so just a great thing. And I do actually thank Hawkeye Community College and everybody who sponsored that event. Waterloo Schools was one of the sponsors, but many people were and many organizations were. So just a great event, and the work continues.
Thanks, Dr. Lindeman. Okay, I'm going to go over here to my right. I'm going to start with Angela this evening because we're already short on this side because Jesse's gone this evening. So go right ahead.
I always get excited to go first. As a weekly, that doesn't always happen in the
With
classroom.
W,
Yeah.
right.
So one of the things that I did want to mention, I don't think we've had a school board meeting since Waterloo Schools actually won the Greater Cedar Valley Alliance and Chambers Inclusion Award, which is a reflection of not just the people that are sitting up here, but all of our paraeducators that are in the audience, all of our teachers, all of our students, parents. I mean, it's a reflection of everything, because that when you have to present that award, you have to present that you are inclusive and we're in this for all students at all times. And it's an amazing thing that we won that award. It's quite prestigious, and Dr. Lindeman and Dr. Smith were able to accept the award on our behalf. And thank you for that, and thank you for the work. And I just say, when we went to the School Board Association, we are probably the most diverse school board. We don't represent all of our community as far as like the different diversity that we have out there, but we are a pretty diverse group of people, and we're representing our community as best we can. And I think that is just super amazing. So super excited about that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, Sue.
I have a variety of things tonight, so I'm going topic to topic, but I too wanted to thank all of you paraeducators for coming tonight, and to just tell you from the experiences. I've had 3 kids in the district and lots of people I know, and you do make a difference, and sometimes you're the only bright spot of the kid in the day, so I just want to thank you for that. Also, I see Mr. Gillum back there, but in our personnel meeting, we have retirements, and I've noticed Mr. Gillum's retiring this year, and another one on there tonight was from West High, Mr. Sinram. And on a note of that, my son has had him the last 3 years at West High, and he runs an amazing PE department at West High. So just wanted to know that we appreciate all the years of service from you, Steve, and lots of other retirees, and we will celebrate that at another time. But then I just wondered, Dr. Lindeman, if there was an update on the bus situation from last week, the people that spoke as far as like the cleaning at the bus barn and, you know, that kind of thing.
You know what? I do not have an update on
Okay.
that. So
Okay.
right now, I will
Okay.
have to get back with you
Okay.
on that.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, I know Dr. Lindeman had mentioned about the professional development days, and I just had a couple parents ask me just last week about that. And if you recall, in years past, we had early out on Wednesday. And so this is in place of that, which our educators found to be more effective to have a full day rather than getting out early on Wednesdays. So it's still the same amount of PD, but it's just in a different format. So it's not like we're giving more time for that or less time, but it's a different way of delivering it. So that's all I have. Thank you.
And our next PD date that's scheduled is May 9th, and that's actually not going to happen because our kids are going to make up a snow day then. And the difference in that is that some of our professional development is we must do it, it's state mandated, et cetera, versus we have some time built into the calendar for that one. So just FYI, if you see that on the calendar, we're actually going to school on May 9th. So, Rhonda.
I just want to start out by saying thank you to the paraeducators, because when we talk about retention and persistence, we generally are speaking in terms of pupil retention and persistence, but we also need that district-wide. We know that it makes sense to retain students, but it also makes sense, CENTS, to continue to offer quality education in our district. So we want to improve that. And I totally believe that it takes a village. And when I think about paraeducators, I see you as an organism, not just an organization. An organism of living, breathing individuals who keep our organization together. And I just want to say thank you, and I support you as a parent, as a taxpayer, and as a board member.
Thanks, Rhonda. Mike?
I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Thanks. Lyle?
2 items. The first one is relative to the robotics team. I think in the long haul, one of the most important teams may be the media team. I was really happy to see they're going to the other schools, and you know, relative to the CTE program, I don't think you can get into the middle schools and the elementary schools too soon. And that's just an excellent way to educate them as to what the possibilities are. So I really appreciate that, and hope you continue to make that a really important part of the robotics team. Second item is just another comment relative to Michael. In order to make informed decisions up here, you know, everything costs money, so they all involve some financial aspect. So I'm sure I don't ask him as much as the rest of you do for information in terms of, you know, what's this cost and what's that cost. But I really appreciate the timely and complete responses, because it is helpful in being able to make informed decisions. So it's a critical piece of it. So thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Lyle. I'm just going to say one more thing, not about Dallas Brass, but I'm going to say that this Saturday at East High School, the local solo and ensemble contest is happening. And if you want to hear some amazing soloists who've put a lot of extra time in, it's both vocal music and instrumental music. I believe it starts as early as probably 8:30, and I know I've got a kid performing at 3:15, so it's pretty much any time during the day, and they'll be assigned to rooms within the building. But it's a real treat to hear those small performances if you hadn't had a chance. So, is there anything further from the board? Then with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. And a second? Thanks, Rhonda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Chair votes aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks.